Hello and welcome to this CGTN live broadcast. My name is Martin Lowe. We're in northeast Thailand. It's a blistering hot day, even by the standards of this country, so please excuse any sweat. But we're here to talk about an exciting project. We're talking about high-speed rail. High-speed rail is coming, not just to Thailand, but to the whole of Southeast Asia. This is Chinese technology, which is being shared with neighboring countries throughout this region. China is one of the world leaders for high-speed technology, and it's now in partnership with a number of countries across Southeast Asia to bring that expertise. Now, here in Thailand, the railway will transform transport. Of course, the single biggest thing about high-speed rail is the speed and comfort that it brings, and that is definitely needed here in Thailand. The railway network is antiquated. It was built around 100 or so years ago, and it's been maintained, but it hasn't really been updated since then. So it's a very, very old, slow network. It's not particularly safe either. So here in Thailand, the arrival of the network is much anticipated, but it's much broader than that, and those who support the high-speed rail scheme will say that it's about far more than simply taking people faster from A to B. And what the reason for that is that they believe that along its entire kilometers, thousands of kilometers long route, it can bring prosperity. Now, the big plan is to have a trans-Asian rail network starting in China in the north, traveling south through Laos into this country, Thailand, north to south through Thailand into Malaysia, and on to Singapore right at the bottom, possibly even branching off in years to come to Cambodia and Vietnam on one side and Myanmar on the other. Now, we're at a city called Nong Khai, right in the northeastern corner of Thailand, and we're here because this is right on the border with Laos. Now, the border is this river, the river Mekong, sometimes known as the mighty Mekong. It's a famous river, and we're coming to the end of the rainy season here in Thailand at the moment, so the river is actually in flood. It's quite a spectacular at the moment. But what's interesting is that by sheer geography, on this bank we're in Thailand. The Mekong River is the boundary, and on the far bank is the country of Laos. This is literally where the two countries come together. And the reason we're here is because it is that proximity to Laos, which is the reason that when the high-speed rail is completed, this is the point where it will come into Thailand for the first time. The train, which will start in southern China, will work its way through China, through Laos, and it will cross over a bridge from Laos across the Mekong here into Thailand. Now, we talked about the possibility of prosperity. Now, northeast Thailand is still primarily the agricultural region for Thailand, and it's because of that possibly the poorest of the regions of the country. It's the least developed, and it's the part of Thailand that more than anywhere else needs to be modernized, and it needs to attract investment, and it needs to attract development. And we can talk about a particular scheme that's planned for this spot, this huge open site on the banks of the Mekong River, just a couple of kilometers from where the rail track will run, has been identified for a particularly ambitious proposal. And this is the person who can tell us about that. This is land agent Ernie Draper. So Ernie, this is a very impressive, it's a large site. What is your vision for this site?
Martin, our vision is something that's completely different. It's we're sitting on 56 acres of land. You've got 800 metres of Mekong River frontage. And if I can pick up on one thing in your introduction, yes, the high-speed train's going to be a connection for all the countries, but look behind us, we already have the Mekong connecting most of Southeast Asia. Unfortunately, it's only for water at this stage. But this project that we propose here is going to be a game changer. If you look at the bigger picture as Thailand, up to the north you have China, to the east, to the west you have India, with a combined population of roughly 4 billion people. In between you have all the countries, including Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Cambodia, Vietnam, Malaysia, Singapore, and of course Thailand and Laos. Now, where else are these companies going to go to do their trading? The bigger countries can do internally, and there's probably going to be some competition between both.
So it's a business hub that you have planned for here. Your vision is that on this site, you can create a huge office complex with all the ancillary services. And what you're saying, I think, this is a place where businessmen can base themselves. And given the proximity of the train, the high-speed train, once that's up and running, they can have an office here, but they can jump on a train and go to China, or in the future can go anywhere.
Absolutely correct. But we're not just talking any office. We're not talking just for your local businesses. We're talking major international offices here, so that all the major multinational companies can trade from one particular spot with all countries on the high-speed train.
And I think what you're saying also is obviously a lot of trade is going to be with China in the future. It's such a burgeoning, such a booming economy. But clearly if somebody based themselves in China, that might make it logistically more difficult to go to Singapore or to get to Vietnam. But you think that this is an ideal geographical spot, a hub, where people can branch out in every direction?
Absolutely, absolutely. China is a lovely country. I've seen many documentaries. I'd love to visit there one day. But geographically speaking, Nong Khai, an unknown Nong Khai city, sitting on the banks of the Mekong, Thai-Lao Friendship Bridge coming in, does it have to be trading with China? Does it have to be trading with other countries such as India? Why not interconnect all the countries within Southeast Asia as not a conglomerate working independently, but the trade itself is going to be enormous. We think of the high-speed train mainly as tourism. Yes, it is. It's going to create tourism by millions, increase the productivity. But the idea of it is cargo trade, commodity trade, bringing wealth not only to this country but to the whole Southeast Asian region.
But passengers, freight, and of course business freight, if you like, business people shooting backwards and forwards to business meetings in lots and lots of different countries from this central location. Okay, well, obviously at the moment there's nothing here. This is a big open site. We can see some boulders over there. Clearly they're doing some preparatory work. We can see some diggers. So some of the preparation is underway, but we can't show people yet what you're planning. But can you tell us what you believe could be built on this site?
Yeah, great. It's a concept and a vision that Isan Real Estate, of which I'm a co-founder of, and our international broker, who you'll be probably meeting later on, we see the opportunity for a really unique international business hub. So if you look around, we've got 56 acres. In Thai terms, it's 141 rai. You've got 800 metres of Mekong River frontage. You've got 400 metres either side. What we see is hotels. We see international business centres, management centres. We're not talking just for office staff haircuts. We're talking the senior VPs or their understudies from multinational companies establishing an office here. It'll then be complemented with shopping malls. There'll be accommodation. There'll be parks. There'll be walkways. If you look further up here, there's cycleways already. It's going to be a modern city against a modern a cultural backdrop in the Nong Khai.
But the driver for all of this is the high-speed rail. You could build it without the advent of the high-speed rail, but it wouldn't really make the same amount of sense, would it? The beauty of this is this literally is the point where the railway will travel south from China. It will go all the way through what is mostly a mountainous region of Laos. Lots of tunnels, lots of bridges being constructed in that country to bring the railway to this point. But this is where it comes into one of the most developed nations in Southeast Asia. So literally, you're right. You're getting the first bite of the cherry. This is where the train arrives, and why does that make you think that this is an area which can develop in a complementary way with the railway?
Oh, simply because of its proximity. If you look on a map and look at Nong Khai, Vientiane is 20 kilometres that way.
That's the capital of Laos, of course.
That's the capital of Laos. Laos had a GDP, I think, in 2017 of about 7% growth. But you can build a project like this anywhere in Thailand. But have you got the proximity to immigration? Have you got the proximity to the Thai-Lao Friendship Bridge, which the railway will cross, the high speed? Have you got the proximity to Myanmar to our west over here? Can you go through to areas such as Nakhon Phanom, where there's a brand new bridge into Cambodia, into Vietnam? You can do it all from Bangkok if you want, or regions in between. But Nong Khai, if you look at it on a map, is the ideal location. And that's where we see the concept being. And if you talk economics, it's much cheaper to do it here for an investor than it would be elsewhere. Plus, I think for an investor, the ROI is going to be much greater.
Plus it is in northeast Thailand, which, as we've already mentioned, is the least developed part of the country, and it's a part of the country that has basically been left behind. Bangkok and some of the big cities, primarily in the south, are much further advanced. Most of the people who are still close to the poverty line are living here in the northeast. This is an area which is predominantly rice farming. There are, of course, other agricultural products, rubber and cassava. They're all dependent on the weather. They're labour intensive and they're low yield. So the people in this area feel they need a boost. So if your vision got off the ground, and if this major international hub was created, not just a benefit for the people, the businessmen who will be based there and will be travelling in and out of there, but what kind of revenue will that bring into the area from the amount of money they'll be spending on housing and food and entertainment?
Oh, very simply, Martin, you probably did quantify it a little bit. A lot of the reason why there is not much activity in Isan region is because most of the educated people have to go towards the south, the Bangkok, the major cities, to fulfill their degrees, their ambitions. But having it up here, we can bring that education, that knowledge, that intelligence back, and to do it. For a businessman, yes, it's just going to be a game changer, put it that way. You can be on the high-speed train, you can be in Kunming overnight, you can have the beauties of Wi-Fi, you can have all the technology available to you. You've got the high-speed train, and that's only the start. Once the city starts to develop, then everything will grow around it. But let's not underestimate Northeast. It's just hasn't been left behind, it hasn't seen a visionary yet, and we believe we've got that vision. What we really need to do is promote this land, which we've been doing, to get a developer who sees our vision. Yes, we could put housing, we could put everything else there, but the vision for Southeast Asia is an international business centre, a true international business centre.
Okay, so let's walk over this way. You've got the land and you've got the vision. What we need to do now is to bring in the international business community. Could you step over there for me, Ernie, a moment?
Sure.
Let's talk to your colleague, John Mark Goossens, who's a lawyer and an international businessman. You spend a lot of your time in Europe. You're often based in Belgium. You've been talking about this project to a number of European companies. What's been their reaction? How much interest do they have?
So the first reaction is very positive. I would say even enthusiastic. So like you said, I presented the project from International Business Center in Brussels, and I think it's also a perfect place to find people who are interested, because Brussels is the capital of Belgium, of course, but it's also the capital of Europe. So it means we have the European Commission and part of the European Parliament in Brussels. So Brussels is organized and it's working like a huge international business center. And so I met with 7 CEOs from big Belgium and also European companies, also one American company, and they were very, very positive. So and in fact, they all use the same kind of words. When I explain the project, they say, fantastic, build it and we will come.
So what is the appeal for European businessmen? Excuse me. They want to come here, presumably because they want to trade with China and they want to trade with Southeast Asia.
Absolutely.
Why are they excited by the idea of having a central hub on this high-speed railway where they can literally go from one country to another? How does that work? What are the advantages for an international executive?
Yes, but I think we have to pinch the screen to get a global vision. And the Belt and Road Initiative is one of the biggest investment projects in history, and so it will improve growth and trade through connectivity, and so connectivity is the key word. And for European companies to have an office in Asia, where you have to go you will think maybe first to Beijing. Okay, very good to go to Beijing, but when after that you need another office where maybe Bangkok, then Kuala Lumpur, finally Singapore. The great
All of them on the railway.
Exactly, that's a great advantage from a business center on the way from the railway, and then you have only one office directly connected with all these major cities.
Clearly we're in Asia and we have followed the development of Belt and Road and the potential of Belt and Road quite closely.
Yeah.
But how important is it being seen by businessmen as far away as Europe?
But not enough yet. So that's why the media, they have a great role to play. And but people are now understanding that the future is here. When you see, if we just talk about numbers, the growth in Southeast Asia is much more bigger than in Europe or even United States.
So this, we're in northeast Thailand, where we've discussed how a scheme on this magnitude could have a dramatic strategic effect for perhaps not just the northeast, but the whole of this country. But on a wider basis, how much potential and prosperity do you believe, or do you think the high-speed railway can bring to the whole of Southeast Asia?
So I think it's okay. It's very difficult to put numbers, but until now we are always talking about economical. But I want to add that it's not only economical, it's also political. I think that the Belt and Road Initiative will strengthen the political relationships between the country, and that's also very positive. I call it diplomacy thanks to the train.
And only you're a land agent, so your primary goal really is to get this land developed. And you could build anything here. Why is it so important to you to try to build what we're discussing today, an international business hub on a massive scale of global importance, utilising the technology that the high-speed railway will bring?
I think you've said it all there, Martin. Everything you've said is exactly what we see as our vision. It just brings everything together. I said earlier on, the Mekong connects it already. It's been doing that for millions of years. Let's not connect the high-speed train, let's connect the business. Now, John, you were talking to John Mark about economics. There was a case I saw last year presented by the Prime Minister's office, a bridge that was built in Nakhon Phanom in 2016. Original trade was 1 billion baht. It's now up to over 150 billion baht. That's in Thai baht. With the exchange rates at the moment. Imagine that coming from China, coming from all these other provinces. It just adds up. We can say it's a dream, it's a pipe dream, but in reality, it is an opportunity. As John Mark said, you can have an office in here, you can have an office there, but you jump on a high-speed train, time management. I'm one big for time management. I don't like to be sitting still. If I can use Wi-Fi on a train and still communicate with my office and overseas, I'm productive. I'm really making something worthwhile for my company. Yes, we're a real estate broker, and as you can see, there is so much opportunity here. It could go for housing, it could go for production, it's already zoned for a lot of areas, but to see that vision happen would just bring so much joy to us as a company. It's not about commission, it's not about anything else, but it's just a beautiful piece of land, 800 metres of Mekong River frontage. You're never going to find that anywhere in Thailand, already developed.
Now, like all massive infrastructure projects, it's got its detractors. This is a huge scheme for Thailand. It's Chinese technology, it's Chinese expertise. The Thai government is going to pay for it. It's a multi-billion-dollar scheme. There are some people who say it's not going to be of benefit to Thailand. There'll never be enough passengers to make it pay its way. But if we bring in all this other prosperity that it can generate, what's your view about whether this is the high-speed train? Is it a force for good in Thailand?
Absolutely. I disagree with the sceptics. It's been proven. Increase trade, take down the barriers, more produce coming in. That's how economy works. I trade with you, you trade with me, the economy works. So I will, for this instance, say negatively the sceptics are wrong. Trade is the key, and it will bring economy back into this country. Whether it's Thailand, it could be done elsewhere, but I just believe geographically, if you put a pinpoint, this is the central hub right that should be there.
Indeed, and John Mark, so we've heard that this is going to bring prosperity to Thailand.
Yeah.
What about on the broader regional level? I mean, how good do you think the high-speed railway and its associated development and investment will be for the wider Asian, Southeast Asian region?
Yeah, but first of all, what I want to add is that we are talking about big companies, but I think it can be also a very good opportunity for small and medium-sized companies like startups. One's economy is not only just large international companies. And here we have also the opportunity here on the International Business Center to build shared office, like co-working shared office. And that will be a gateway to Asia for small, medium-sized and large companies.
But certainly Asia is the place that's developing, and if you want to do business on an international scale, this is where you need to be.
That's the place to be.
Okay, so we've heard some interesting views there, and clearly there is a massive potential for this site. It's all, of course, dependent on the arrival of the railway. Now, as we can see, there's preparatory work going on here, preparing the land for whatever it's finally turned into, hopefully an international business hub. The railway isn't here yet. We're still waiting for that. But the railway trains are supposed to be running here in Thailand by 2023. It's a massive scheme and it's taking time, but we hope that the high-speed railway will begin operating in 2023. Over in Laos, they're doing even better. They began construction over in Laos. The terrain there is far more difficult than travelling through China. It is mostly mountains and valleys. They've had to build a record number of bridges and tunnels, but they're 80% complete. Their railway track is almost at the point where it can be brought into operation very quickly. When we go further south in Malaysia, that is now back underway and is gaining momentum. There was a delay in Malaysia. There were political wrangling, but that's all been overcome now. The railway is being revived and everything is now back on track and gaining momentum once more. So we're not there yet. It's still a couple of years or more away, but you can see by the scale and the vision of this proposal that for many people it has very much captured the imagination and clearly there's huge potential waiting to be taken advantage of. So for now, we hope you'll keep watching and keep an eye on how this scheme develops and how progress is made. We're at the early stages, but clearly a lot of vision is going into this and a lot of potential. And it's all really because of the high-speed rail. And as we said at the outset, this hopefully will not just mean faster travel for passengers and freight, but it will mean increased prosperity for both Thailand and the whole of Southeast Asia. Well, that's all for now. Thanks for joining us here on CGTN. We hope you learned something and enjoyed our little broadcast. Please join us again next time. For now, that's it.